I'm going to wear something that's warm, maybe darker clothing when it's cold. This hand was pulling out bright, colorful dresses and stuff, sundresses and things like that, because it was kind of cool to wear that. I liked wearing that. And she was like, oh, two brains going on. Split brain, it's called. So they did more research on these people, and what they begin to find that the left brain seems to control language, speech, writing, calculations, and so on down the line. And the right brain seems to be more nonverbal. To simplify this, we say the left brain seems to be more analytical, logical, scientific, and the right brain seems to be more nonverbal, perceptual, more artistic. That's there. And that way. Two different brains. Now, by the way, you people haven't had your corpus callosum cut, right? So the two still communicate. This doesn't happen. But what we do find, though, is that sometimes we see a difference between left-handed people, wherever you are, and right-handed people. Left-handed people have a tendency to be more creative, okay? When you look at musicians and artists, writers, okay, and you look at the percentage of people who are in those fields, left-handed people, which makes up about 5 to 10%, depending upon the culture, across the world, have a much higher percentage than they should in those fields that are there. So you start thinking, I wonder if the creative process is here and they have a tendency to access that a little bit more than these people here. Kind of different, isn't it? Kind of interesting to see that goes on. So do we really have two different brains? Yes, we do. There really is two different functioning going on, but we have a corpus callosum that's in contact with each other, so messages go back and forth. That's there, back and forth. All right? Is that interesting? Just real quickly. I mean, that's two different brains that are up there. By the way, at the end of this chapter, they have a little test for you to take to see if you're left brain dominant or right brain dominant. Left brain dominant people have a tendency to be more scientific, logical, rational. Right brain dominant seem to be more musical, artistic, flowing a little bit better in their lives. 2 more minutes. Lobes of the brain. Okay? In the textbook, they have many, many different lobes they're going to talk about. I'm only going to talk about 4 different lobes of the brain. Real simply. The frontal lobe, sense of smell, motor control, high mental abilities such as reasoning and planning. Right here. This is it. This is who we are. Thinking, logic, and rationally. This is what separates us from other mammals and other animals. Our ability to be intelligent, to reason, is all right here. All right here. This is the area that develops last in brain development. If you're a fan of science fiction and people describe creatures from other planets, they usually have really big foreheads. Why? Because the assumption is they're smarter than we are. They got here, and we didn't get to their place. So their brains must be bigger in this area. Logic, rationality, mental abilities, reasoning, planning. Parietal lobe, which is back here, sensations such as touch, temperature, and pressure. Occipital lobe, which is back here, which would be vision. Yesterday in that football game, if anybody got smacked in the back of the head, sometimes that interferes in brain processing. You're still trying to see, but what you see is stars. You ever hear somebody say, oh, my God, I got hit in the back of the head, I see stars. It's an interruption in the brain processing for vision. The temporal lobes are here, the seat of hearing, as well as emotions. We're going to talk about that, as well as language. Gets smacked in the side of the head there. It interferes with your ability to hear, so it distorts your hearing. And sometimes people say they got their bell rung because they hear a ringing sound that's there. And we went through the forebrain and the occipital lobes and the temporal lobes. So I want to continue on talking about the structure of the brain and how the structure of the brain is going to affect and effect, okay, what you think, feel, and behave. So In the hindbrain, we're talking about the area way back here in the brain. So the first thing we want to talk about is the cerebellum. The cerebellum is at the very base of the brain, in the hindbrain, and it controls balance and your coordination that's there. Balance and coordination. Get hit in the back of the head, way in the back there, may interrupt that. That's there. We also beginning to find that when we peek into people's brains, we begin to find that people who have incredible balance and coordination, like athletes or gymnasts, okay, they seem to have a greater connectivity in their brain. Basically, that means that the brain is wired more in a more consistent pattern that's there in these people's brains. Those of you who are uncoordinated, you're always tripping all over the place, I kind of wonder if we looked in your brain, maybe you don't have the connectivity that these people do. That's there. So what we look at when we peek in people's brains, we begin to find that if people who have these talents that's there that you and I may not have, could be based on what goes on in the brain. They may have been genetically predisposed to that, and then the environment, okay, sculptured the brain, and those connections got greater. That's there. Or they didn't have it, but they did an activity over and over and over and over and over and over again, which helped it as well. Do you have a question? And then you have a question.
Okay, I'm an athlete. I played soccer, and I had a neck injury.
Yeah.
And after that injury, I had trouble balancing.
Okay.
In sports and everything, and running, I did not have any good balance anymore. So would that have messed up?
That could be it. Let me just repeat what you said, because I don't think everybody heard you. She said she is an athlete. I won't say was. She is an athlete. And she played a lot of soccer, but then she had a neck injury. And then after that, she had difficulty running. Her balance was off. Yeah, there's your neck. That could have been very much, especially if you snapped it back. Now, the other problem could have been, it might have also be an inner ear aspect, because that has a lot to do with balances as well. Yeah, you do find that professional athletes will go that far when they have some injuries to the head, particularly football players, soccer players. People don't realize, we talk a lot about football players and having concussions and stuff. People don't realize the concussions that soccer players have all the time. Get damage to different parts of the brain, it's going to affect your motor abilities and everything else. Very much so. Yeah.
So, I was a gymnast for 3 years and I was pretty good at it.
Uh-huh.
But I'm one of the most clumsiest persons I know. Like, I don't know if that.
Well, there could be a difference in clumsiness and coordination that's there. If you're a good gymnast, that's great. Now, how old were you when you were a good gymnast?
15.
15 at the oldest? So 12 through 15?
Well, at the oldest I was
15, 16? 16, that's there. Now, as you get older, remember, if you're not going to continue this anymore, you may have gotten clumsier. Or maybe you were clumsy when you were younger, and then what happened, you started developing and the coordination got better, that's there. Remember, we're also talking about, I don't think you were Olympic gymnasts. Okay. All right, so, you know, those are the people that's who they're doing the research with, okay? The people who have incredible coordination like that. You know who Emmitt Smith was? Okay, Dallas Cowboys running back. They've done studies with him as well, and partly what they find is that the guy had incredible balance. I mean, it'd be real hard to knock him over all the time, and incredible balance that he had. I'm talking about very, very gifted people that's there. All right, the reticular formation, another part of the hindbrain, okay, and here's a picture of the reticular formation. Okay, the reticular formation, okay, is right down here in the brainstem as it comes down. Here's the cerebellum, by the way. And this is what the reticular formation is. You ready? Pay attention. That's it. Okay, the reticular formation helps you pay attention. All right? Stay with me. You with me? That's what your brain does. It says, pay attention. The reticular formation. The reticular formation sends a message, like in this, through the whole brain. Like just what you just did right now. Okay? What happened is that he came in. Is it he? Okay. He came in, okay, and all of you just went, and you looked right over there. what that is the reticular formation says pay attention to anything that's new, different, interesting, or the big one is dangerous. Okay? Wake up. What is this? Remember, I've said now for the third time, we really are animals out in a hostile world and we're trying to stay alive. This is what this does this too. It's pay attention to anything that's new, different, interesting, loud, bright, anything that's going to shake you up. And then once you identify it, who came in through the door? All right, it's just him. That's okay. Then your brain settles back down again. All right? It's the wake-up call that goes on in your brain. The reticular formation. Boom, wakes you up. Anything new, different, and interesting. Sitting in this class for an hour and 20 minutes isn't new and different, isn't it? And most of you will stay with me for a good 25 or 30 minutes, and then we all start drifting off. Some of you, by the way, drift off in 2 minutes, okay? But some of you stay. It's just hard to pay attention. When we cover the chapter on sensation and perception, I'm going to teach you, if you let me, how to focus, how to be mindful, or how to focus, how to stay with me. Okay? Because what winds up happening is that we all start drifting off because our brains are not wired to pay attention. The reticular formation says pay attention to anything is new, different, interesting, dangerous. Okay? And if it's not, then your brain goes, ugh. Okay? It just doesn't get startled that way. Okay? And all of us in here grew up with television and audio, video stimulation. If you took to your great-grandparents who grew up with radio, those people have a different brain. Sorry. Okay? They really do. They can sit and just listen really, really well. If you ever watch some of their television programs that are from the 1940s and 50s and 30s, as they watch television, okay, a lot of those shows have a lot of dialogue in it. People just start talking to each other, and they talk and talk and talk. When you and I watch them, sometimes you're like, oh, this is interesting, and we go to sleep. Because our movies are what? Boom, bang, boom, blow something up, have some more music. Okay, come on, talk some more. Whoop, not much talk. Can't have too much talk. Got to throw some music in there. Because what happens, producers, directors, no, you're not going to sit and just listen to somebody talk to each other for 5 minutes. You'll listen to that for a while, and then you're going to throw in a car blowing up, okay, or some type of music that comes in, or change of scenery, because your brain becomes adapted to this. The reticular formation wakes you up. Another example of this is that mothers, if they connect with their infants, become in tune with their infants, and they tell themselves, ready? Tell themselves through the frontal lobes, right, reasoning, I need to pay attention to my baby, particularly when they're sleeping. Okay, because I don't want anything to happen to my baby when they're sleeping. You can have 7 moms in one room, 7 infants in another room, have an intercom system, 1 baby cries, 1 mom wakes up, just the one that's her baby. That's it. Why? Because she is so in tune, okay, with her baby. Good mothers do that, all right? Not all mothers, okay? You really get in tune with those babies. Now, by the way, when you do these studies, they're not done very long. 1 baby wakes up, 1 mother wakes up. Within about a minute, all the other babies are crying too. So, but you can do that study. Now, here's another interesting little thought. Let's say there's mom and dad are together. They're sleeping over here. The baby's in the other room. Baby cries. Ah! Right? Sound waves come across. Hits mom, hits dad as well, right? Mom goes, oh, baby's crying. What's going on? Need to go in there. Dad sleeps through the whole thing. What's going on? It's a cry of distress, right? Comes in. Mom responds. Dad sleeps. Right? What's with his reticular system? Well, this is what happens. Mom, through the frontal lobes, has said, pay attention. I don't want my baby maybe having sudden infant death syndrome or something like that. No, we don't want anything of that happening. So she's sleeping, but, it's like one part of her brain, the reticular formation, is saying, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. Wakes up right away. Dad, frontal lobes, probably thought to himself, baby cries, she'll get up. I'll sleep through this one. She'll probably get up. Message comes across. Frontal lobes tells reticular system, don't pay attention to that. What? In one ear, out the other ear, right? So mom goes, boom, like that to his ribs, wakes him up, and he goes gets the baby. Okay? That's about the only way. That also means you can train frontal lobes to tell the brain to stay awake. Still with me? You can train yourself to do this. Well, when we get to the chapter on sensation and perception, I'll tell you. All right? But we'll get there. But just for practice, what you might want to do today is that if you find, because this is what we're going to do, okay? If you find yourself drifting off, you want to consciously say, pull it back, pull it back. What is he talking about again? Let me see something, hear, write, do something to pull myself back. All right? Because that's going to be the basis of this. All right. Let's talk about other areas of the brain. I want to talk more about the forebrain. Okay, right up here. Okay, they want to talk about the thalamus. Well, let me show you a picture, and then I'll come back for the spelling. All right, well, there's the spelling right there. Thalamus, right up here. There's the spelling of it. Deep in the brain, isn't it? Really deep in the brain. I'm just going to introduce the thalamus now. When we get to the chapter on memory, we're going to talk a lot more about it. But the thalamus seems to be one of the last spots for all sensory information to come up into. So what you see, hear, taste, smell, touch, it comes into the thalamus and then gets separated back out. Since sensory information is coming up through there, when we do the chapter on memory, okay, we're going to talk a lot more about the thalamus and how it assists us in terms of memory. All right, so if I go back, the next thing we want to talk about is the hypothalamus, which is what? Under, hypo means under, underneath the thalamus. So, hypothalamus, there's the spelling again there. It's right, look how small. This is so small, right there. This little part of your brain controls thirst, hunger, eating, okay? This is the signal that your brain gets through a feedback loop, okay, that when you're thirsty, to feel, I'm thirsty, I need to drink something, okay? When you're hungry, okay, messages come from the hypothalamus to tell you, I'm hungry, I need to eat something. Coordinates with what? Your stomach, blood sugar levels, I'm hungry. When you are full, the hypothalamus sends messages out through neurotransmitters, but also through hormones to say, I'm satiated, I don't need any more food, I'm full, no more for me. Okay? The latest diet pills they have out now will be working on the hypothalamus to try to induce that. That's there. The hypothalamus also controls pleasure. Okay? So when you're doing something that you really like, okay, the hypothalamus is going to go, ooh, we like this, and it's going to release hormones, okay, or tell glands to release hormones, and also neurotransmitters to make you feel good, particularly dopamine. Okay, ooh, this is good. Those of you who like to shop, and when you shop, you're going to like, I really feel good when I shop, especially when I buy something. Well, when you buy something and you get that good feeling, the hypothalamus is going, and you go, wow, this is good. I'm feeling good. Seat of your pleasure zones. Those of you who have engaged in sexual behaviors, if anyone here has, and if you've ever had an orgasm, okay, when you have that orgasm, part of the pleasure you feel comes from the hypothalamus. Whoa, okay, really good. It's part of the stimulation from the hypothalamus. So if we ever learn to control the hypothalamus, I don't know what we'll do. We can rule the world, I guess, in that way. If you're doing a drug that gives you a big euphoric feeling, like heroin or cocaine especially, part of cocaine, the receptor sites in the hypothalamus get stimulated, and boom, you get this electrical chemical rush of feeling good. This little part right there does all of this in your brain, way in the back.
Oh, back to what you were saying, that it controls pleasure, and that most diet pills, have to do with that part.
No, the newest diet pills will. Okay, there are a lot of diet pills do other things. Yeah.
It goes also back to the placebo method, right?
The what method?
The placebo.
Yes, the placebo. It can be a placebo method, right? anything can be a placebo method, right? Anything where your brain, where you're starting to think, oh, this is really working. Oh, absolutely, yeah. But they have, when we get to the chapter when I talk about weight and things like that, I'll show you the parts of the hypothalamus that these pills will stimulate to make you feel full, okay, or to make you feel hungry, okay. Either way, they can do that neurochemically, okay. But yeah, a lot of this has placebo effects as well. All right, so then we'll do the last part of here is called the limbic system, Limbic, right, as opposed to Olympics, right, which start this week in Russia, but limbic system. What's the limbic system? Limbic, all of this. This whole, like little C that's here, all of this is called the limbic system. The limbic system is the seat of emotions. It's the seat of emotions. Those of you who are very emotional, you know, we go to a movie with you, and you're sitting there, you're crying, you're going, oh, because I'm so happy. You're crying because you're happy? What's the deal here? I don't know, this is so happy. This is a happy movie, okay? You're an emotional person. That's who you are. My guess is you probably have the connectivity in this part of your brain is probably pretty solid that's there. That's just who you are. You get what I'm saying here? Sometimes it's just who you are. Change it. You shouldn't be so emotional. The hell with you. I am emotional, right? It's just who I am. Give me a break. That's here. Researchers have, and I'm not going to show you exactly where this is, but researchers say different parts of the limbic system, if you stimulate, will make you feel angry, sad, happy, you know, calm, peaceful, whatever emotion you feel. That's there. This one right here, the amygdala, right on the bottom here, is very, very important. When stimulated, sometimes it can make people really, really angry. Right? Really, really angry. The amygdala is the seat of a lot of emotional aspects. Things get stimulated through those areas. There was a very famous study that was done with a bull, B-U-L-L, a bull. This fellow, I think his name was Delgado, psychologist, implanted an electrode in the bull's amygdala, okay? And then he got into a bull ring with the bull, okay, and stood there, and he had two transmitters. And he stood there, and he zapped the bull once, and got electrical stimulation. The bull just went, and you can actually see this. You probably get online through YouTube and see this. And the bull goes like this, and he looks, and he sees him there, and he's kind of waving at the bull, and the bull just starts charging him. And he stands there like this and waits for the bull to get maybe about 20, 25 feet from him, and then pushes another transmitter and stimulates a different part of the bull's brain, which calms him down. And you just see this bull just go, just stopping about 10 feet away. I mean, he's really 10 feet, that's pretty close between you and I, right? That's close, and he just kind of snorts a little bit and walks away. Gets far enough away, zaps him again, and starts charging him again. Good thing he got his buttons right? Or he'd been in trouble. That's there. Maybe, and by the way, there is some beginning research on this, people who have, I don't know what to say, inconsistent amygdala or a well-connected amygdala have a tendency towards violence. Maybe, okay, that's there, because we know this does have play into certain emotions that's there. So maybe the way we feel has a lot to do with what brain structure. Now, you do realize, as I talk about this, I'm not saying the only reason why people are angry is because of that, right? Biopsychosocial. I'm just